Hi there, Karen here. I'm doing a mixed media layout today. It's not something I do very often, using these Dilutions ink sprays. And the colours I've chosen are Poisoned Jade, London Blue, Funky Fuchsia and Vibrant Turquoise. And I've diluted them a bit further into some empty bottles, as you see there, and then sprayed them onto these cards so I could see the two different colours, the deeper colour and then the lighter colour, because they're a bit sometimes the colours are a bit too vibrant for me. And then I picked out a couple of masks. There's some dragonflies and some leaves. Don't actually end up using the leaf mask, but I picked it out anyway. And so I'm going to start off by doing some modelling paste, through some dragonflies through the modelling paste, just at the top of the page there. I've just so there's 2 or 3 different styles of dragonflies. So I thought they would just be quite pretty, just floating about above at the top of the page. And then once they're dry, and that's the photograph I've chosen to put on this layout. And then there's at the bottom of the mask there's some grass. There's a grass stencil, so I thought I'd put that at the bottom of the page. And as you see, I've put another little dragonfly at the bottom there as well. And now I'm just spraying on first a bit of water and then randomly some of the lighter, the more diluted shades, because they look a little bit softer. So that's the Funky Fuchsia there, and I think I've used the London Blue, and that's a bit of the turquoise on top there. And then at the bottom, I'm using the Poisoned Jade to indicate some grass. And then just on the left there's another little dragonfly, and I think I'm going to give that a squirt as well in a moment of Funky Fuchsia. I'm just dabbing it dry there so that it can just, there goes the pink in the corner. And then I got out my yellow and sprayed that in the corner. I really was not very happy with that afterwards. It was a bit of a mistake. It was a bit too much, too leery. So after about 2 days thinking about it and looking at it, I decided to start again. So this time I've started by spraying the same colours, the pink and the blue, sprayed them on first and watered them down. And then some of the more, the undiluted pink and the blue. So I've just sprayed them on. So we've got a slightly different look, slightly brighter, more vibrant look at the top there. Just drying that with my heat gun, and then I'm going to do the stenciling on the top this time so that it perhaps stands out a little bit more. So I've just picked out the same stencil, so it's pretty much the same idea. I'm just trying a different version of it, see if I like that any better with my photograph. So I'm just stenciling at the top there. Decided not to put the grass on this one. I thought that was a bit too much. It just didn't work with the photograph. So, and then having thought about it for a couple of days, you'll see in a moment, I've not only changed the background, I've changed the photograph. I've decided that photograph didn't work with the colours I was using, and I've picked these 2 photographs. It's more or less the same picture. One is just a smaller version or a cut down version of the larger one of myself and my friend on a walk in the woods. And so I'm just putting some backing papers. I've picked out a few papers from some scraps really from my December hip kit, some of the pink paisley papers that I thought the colours went rather well with the photograph. So I'm already making a bit more progress than I did with the first photograph, because I never actually got around to backing that one at all. So I'm just backing that with a little bit of mint, and then I think these papers are both from the same sheet. Just that it was a colour block sheet, and both colours work quite well with this photograph. So I'm just cutting that down to fit. And then this is a bit of, I think this is a scrap from an even older hip kit. This is some Dear Lizzie paper that I've had. I think it dates back to October. And I just wanted a bit of that navy at the back of my photograph as well. So it's already had a lot of holes punched in it because it's been well used, this paper. But I managed to just cut down enough, as you'll see, to back this photograph, give it a bit of navy in the background, as there's some navy in the photograph. I had to cut off all the holy bits, and I just about had enough to do a couple of little backing layers. And this is another piece I'm going to cut down for the bottom left. So just sticking that down. And again, cutting off all the holy bits. just to create another little bit of backing at the bottom of the photograph. I think I made thoroughly good use of those scraps. I may keep those last few bits as well, use them another time. So now I'm going to have a look at the little photograph, and as you see, I've got lots of little frames. They're not really frames; it's the pink paisley paper that's cut. That's lots of squares of the patterns in the collection, and I'd used it to cut out a lot of squares with or to punch a lot of squares. When I had another look at it, I thought, well, actually, it looks like lots of little frames. So I picked out the one I liked to go as the frame, and the rest I'm just going to use as backing papers, just to back that little photograph. There's just a couple more layers. I don't think I've ever been so frugal with my scraps. I was quite pleased to be able to keep using those bits, and those papers were so lovely. It's just nice to be able to keep getting some use out of them. And this is also from the pink paisley Take Me Away collection. This is just some of the ephemera. But I just felt that flower was the last, I think it was the last flower piece of ephemera I had. So I wanted to make use of it, but it was a bit big, so I ended up cutting it in half and splitting it. And now I'm just punching a couple of circles to go in that top left corner, because it looked a bit empty there. I was going to try the doily, but actually I think the doily doesn't make it on the layout for a change. I just wanted something behind that corner, just to join those two pieces of navy paper together to kind of make it more of a hole. There was a bit of a sort of gaping hole in that corner, so those two circles are just bridging that gap. And I've putting the final pieces of those little scraps on my small photograph. I'm not going to need to put a little bit of foam on it just to lift it so that it just crosses over the other photographs, so it sort of joins them together. And I've not quite put it in the right place there, so I have to move it along a little bit just so that it crosses over sufficiently to make it all of a piece. And I quite like that together. Those two photographs together works quite well. Thinking about putting a couple of layers at the bottom there of paper, but not too sure about it. It was just it looked a bit bare, but it's still not quite right. And I'm fiddling about, thinking I'm not sure I like these colours with these photographs now. And I'm trying the ephemera pieces, as I say, cutting it in half to make it fit a little bit better, and then the other one can go along the side. In a minute, not yet, I haven't got there yet, and now I've changed my mind all over again, yet again, and look, the old one's come back. The first mixed media page layout that I did, or the backing paper that I did, brought it back into view, and I thought, actually, these photographs go better with that backing paper than with the new one. So eventually, I think I'm getting there. It's been a bit of a twisty-turny layout, but I quite like the way these photographs go with this particular backing sheet. So yeah, eventually it works, and even the grass looks quite good with this photograph. It works a lot better for some reason. So you have to keep trying, but in the end we get there. So the ephemera, just tucking those in on both sides, it brings the whole thing together, having a bit of ephemera both sides. And once I've got those in place and I've decided, yeah, actually this is going to work now, I'm quite happy with this. I brought in a tag which says days filled with sun, fun and friends, as this is a photograph taken with a friend. And I picked out these lovely chipboard. These are HipKit exclusive chipboard letters from my latest kit, but it's the only thing from the new kit that I've actually used. So I've just placed them there. They're not quite stuck down yet, but they'll be stuck down in a minute. And I'm just going to do my bit of journaling at the bottom there, just saying where we are and when it is, just stamping the date at the top there. Or just underneath the journaling, I'm just going to stamp the date. And just use a couple of little brackets. It just felt like it needed something to to tie it in. Sorry the lighting's changed on this in the middle of this layout. It's probably a different day, because I tend to do my layouts over 2 or 3 days, come back, think about it, and then come back and finish it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just finishing it off now, just by choosing a few little ephemera to create some little clusters. So I've got a little rubber camera there that I quite like. See, the colour went rather well. And then there's a wooden pin, which I think is from We Are Memory Keeper. No, that one was from, I think, it's either Pink Paisley or Pink Fresh Studios. I always get those two companies mixed up. It must be all the P's. But that was from I think that was from an early hip kit as well. So I've pinned that down because it wasn't sticking very well. So I've just got my tiny attacher in just to stick it down a bit more firmly. And then I've put in a little wood veneer saying hello. And I picked out these feather wood veneers and put them in each of the 3 clusters, but I thought they looked a bit daft, really, just sitting there. They didn't make any sense, so they don't stay there. I think one stays and the rest I change. I quite like the one at the bottom left by the little photograph, but the others didn't look right. So I've got a little wood veneer in each cluster. I've got a feather in the cluster there on the left. I've got a little flower next to the camera. There it is. And obviously I've got the little hello speech bubble at the top of the photograph. And then I brought in some Pink Fresh Studio enamel dots from the Mix collection. Well, every colour you can possibly want, so I put most of the colours on there. They seem to go with because there's so many colours on this layout. I thought I tried to pick out all the colours in the background and put them on in each of the clusters as enamel dots. And then I think I remembered that on this sheet of letters there were also some little gold hearts, and they were really sweet, so I thought I'd put one of those in each cluster as well. So I'm just sticking them on. I think I'm using a bit of glue to make sure they stick on, because we can never trust these wood veneer to stay very long, can we? We also have to use glue to stick them on. So there's one more to go in the final cluster. And I think that will be the end of the layout. I think that's the last thing I need to do. So thank you for sticking with me. Sorry about all the twists and turns, but I think I got there in the end and I really like it. So thanks for joining me, and I hope you join me again.